Welcome to Golf Industry Guru and the Gig Podcast, where we interview the best and brightest golf and hospitality leaders on the planet. On today's episode, you will learn some proven real-world solutions that'll help you and your team solve some of your biggest golf business challenges. So stick around for some tips, tools, and training to get you, your people, and your business powered on. Here's your host, Scott Massey.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Gig Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Massey, and today we're here with you for another episode of our 19th hole series with Matt Rolfe. For all of you listeners out there that aren't familiar with the 19th hole series, this focuses on everything that happens at your club after your members and guests putt out on the 18th green. And in these episodes, we like to have a peer-based conversation between Matt, myself, and an actual F&B operator from the club industry. So we're going to dive deep into our guests' food and beverage operations at their club today, and we're going to discuss the various challenges and opportunities that they are currently facing. So these episodes are designed to promote the sharing of various industry best practices while also uncovering real solutions to your real challenges facing actual industry operators, which will help you, the listener, accelerate your club's F&B success going forward. So with that said, I'd like to welcome Matt Rolfe in onto the Gig Podcast today. Matt is a coach, speaker, entrepreneur who mentors the top 10% of the hospitality industry towards unlocking their true potential. He's the founder of Results Hospitality and Westshore Hospitality Group based in Toronto, Ontario. And Matt has worked with hundreds of leadership teams throughout North America. Matt, welcome to the show.
Scott, thank you so much for having me again. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, I'm enjoying our recurring engagements here. We're having lots of fun.
Yeah.
And we've got a real special guest with us today, a friend of Gig. Luke Newland is the course owner. He's a software innovator. He's a whiskey aficionado from Whiskey Run Golf Club. Luke, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Great, Scott. Super excited to be here, man. This is fantastic. This is good timing for me.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you with us. Big fan of yours, Luke. You're very innovative. There's no doubt. Many people in the industry have seen your awesome videos on LinkedIn and your other social channels. You're definitely at the forefront of what's happening in the industry right now. I appreciate all the innovation and things that are happening in your world. But tell us a little bit more about yourself and your business. You got a lot of exciting things happening at Whiskey Run. So for the benefit of our audience, maybe just fill us in a little bit on what's going on right now.
Yeah, sure. Quick background. My golf course, Whiskey Run, family-owned, operated, been in it since I was about 7. I've done everything from filling divots, working at the bar, working in the golf shop, being a player assistant, being out on the course, serving, all that jazz, being a maintenance guy, cutting greens. Last couple of years,
literally
done it all. Last couple of years of the golf course, that's why I said this is good timing for me, because my majority of my time has been spent in the golf shop, golf side of things, marketing side of things. Thanks for the kind words about the videos and everything. We try to do as much as we can.
Absolutely.
Last year, I dabbled a little bit more in our F&B side, and this year is where I'm going to spend the majority of my time. So definitely a steep learning curve for me, and I'm really excited to be on here. We've got another project with our business as well, which is a micro distillery that we're opening. So the F&B side of things, it becomes that much more important for us. So this is good stuff.
No, it's exciting. You've got a lot of really cool things happening, and I know Matt's excited to learn a little bit more about your biz, and we'll see where the conversation goes today. So why don't I throw to Matt, and we'll get today's episode started.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. And thanks for that intro, Luke. I'm going to dive into that in a second. And just to share with the audience who's 4 minutes and 2 seconds into the podcast, I want you to stick with us for the next 3-4 minutes. And you're going to hear, I hope, about how you can be selfish around this conversation. So how can you take something away from our conversation, mine with Luke and with Scott, that helps your operation? So we're really going to focus on Luke's business, but what Luke's experiences are going to be common to a lot of the experiences out there for our listeners. And what we're trying to do is create awareness. If we have conversation that creates awareness from a peer who knows what we're going through, I don't, Luke does. Create awareness, then we have different choices. Once we have different choices, we can make different decisions to create different results. And I'm not implying that you're not getting great results now, but it's the way to get there better, faster, stronger, engage more people in your vision. As Luke said, we're doing different things, and Scott shared his disruption in the industry, which I love. But one thing I heard, Luke, in your intro is there's a lot. It sounds like you got a lot going on.
Yes. Yes.
How do you find balance, my man? Like, tell me a little bit about your days. Like, how do you prioritize between the demands? And I'm sure it's not an answer that we set you up for. I don't know if there is an answer, but tell me a little bit about how are you, and how are you finding balance in your days with increased capacity, new projects?
Yeah, it's something learning a lot about. I definitely haven't handled it very well. I don't think, there's a lot of different directions to be sort of pulled, and really picking out the things. Like, there's some glaring things, obviously, that you go after when you're prioritizing, but I definitely have had my fair share of challenges moving forward with all the things that are going on.
Yeah, and I just want. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, especially like being majority golf related before, but now shifting a bit to the F&B, as well as a new venture that's coming on. It's yeah. Anyway.
And I think so. There, like, if you're listening in the audience, right, that's something that we can all relate to. What Luke's going through of capacity and priorities and opportunities, and you can hear the change in his voice. So that's, as a coach, what I watch for his physical cues, and obviously changing what we're sharing. And one thing that I just wanted to share with Luke, and hopefully with everybody else listening, the hardest person on us is us. The loudest voice that we hear is the voice in our head. And I know from talking to you in our prep call and now that you're hard on yourself, my man, which I think is probably a strength. I'm assuming that's a pattern.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it works for you. And I would never try to take that away, because I think that's a gear that disruptive, scrappy entrepreneurs, like, I'm really hard on myself as well. But what we want to try to do now is, so many leaders I work with, when I have this conversation, especially one-on-one when we're not recording it, and I ask them to show me their calendar, and their hands go in their face, or their bodies physically. These are some of the most successful entrepreneurs I've ever met. But it's this common feeling of overwhelmed and overworked and overcapacity, and we can do it. We've done it for years, but it's almost a kind of what's next. So, and feel free to be playful and not get the answers right, because what we want to do is give everybody actions. But a lot of us feel the same way that Luke does. One question that allows us to focus, that I'd really ask everybody to be able to answer for yourself and your team, is, how does your operation win this season? So right now, unfortunately, the Leafs lost, the Flames lost. I'm very heartbroken about the Leafs. Scott can make fun of me for that as another first-round exit. But they had a very clear definition of success. Some might have said first-round playoff victory, but really it was Stanley Cup, right? So we knew exactly what we were after this year in the development of our team and the focus of our days. And often in hospitality, we don't have that definition. And I'm not making, we just did a workshop with 200 people in a room, some of the top operators in Canada, and none of them had a clear definition. These are some of the best brands. They could say things, but we spent a full day working on this question. So, Luke, I just want to be playful here in a question. We're in the work now, we're in the coaching, but if you were to find something where you could celebrate with your team, you would open up your finest bottle of whiskey that you've been saving, that you didn't think you'd open because it's in the back where you don't want anybody to see because you're collecting it. You're like, forget it. We're gonna open this because we had such a great year. But what does success look like for your team? What result needs to be accomplished? Total business, like golf, F&B, the development of the micro distillery. What would be the core thing that you need to achieve to feel that you've won this year? And I want you to that word "feel," right?
Interesting. That's a good question.
And you don't have to get the answer right, because this is a big one. Like, you literally take a day. But just what are some things that you want to accomplish this year, just in a playful mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I would want, obviously, profitability for sure, because we've got to keep the thing going. And I would want my team to be happy and be excited about the following year too. I would want my customers and my guests and my golfers to be providing good feedback, quality feedback. And still, even with success, I think I still would need the potential of growth.
Yeah.
Right. To still see the areas where we can improve, which I think, are never ending, but like,
yeah,
having something like that. Cause I can't like sort of be like, okay, we hit this, we've done it. That, it's good. It's a reward. We can reward ourselves from that. But I think I always have to have something like, okay, like this is really a spot where there's a lot of opportunity and we could take advantage of it in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. And just as you shared last, was this idea of goals. And I always go back to the story where they say like, it's like 92% of people who run a marathon never run a marathon again because they did the training across the finish line and they don't even run again. They're like, that was terrible. So there's a benefit of goals. We want goals, but I think what we want to take from what Luke just shared is they're fluid. They're always evolving. We have a clear destination. 3 years from now, we can see the micro distillery being successful. We've expanded our F&B business, as many of you are doing. We've got increased golfers on the course. So we have those goals, but what we really want is what are the processes? So one of my favorite quotes right now that's all over our office is we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems or the success of our systems, our processes, our daily intentions. So goals are very, very important. But as Luke said, you can cross the finish line and we're not done. It's like Kobe Bryant quote saying, job not finished, right? We got to keep going. We got to keep fighting. So we could tie some of this back around. And one thing, I got a chance to be on a call with Simon Sinek recently, who wrote the book, Start With Why. But one thing Simon really pushes is profitability is a result we all need. Like we're for-profit businesses. We have to be profitable by design with the best of intentions. But profitability is a result, as Luke just shared so well, of human behavior. So our staff do something in order to create an experience for our guests where they can become, raving fans. If anybody wants to have a quick team read a book with their team, which we often promote, the book Raving Fans is like a 45-minute read, and it's brilliant to bring everybody onto the same page. But we want to make sure that we have a happy team delivering a great guest experience. So does that kind of sum that up? How do you feel about if you were to rate your team on a scale of 0 to 10 now in respect to happiness? And there's a group I had lunch with today, they probably put themselves at a 2. The short staffs, and we had a meeting with Technomic as well last week. I don't know if everybody knows Technomic, but they consolidate all the data for our industry. And they said 17% of hospitality jobs in North America are currently vacant. So 17, most kitchens are 17% short. Yeah. And that's catastrophic, right? So North America average is 8 to 9. Our industry is experiencing a 17% shortage, which if you look at the average, we're missing 2 out of 10 people in our kitchen. How do we operate a Saturday lunch, brunch, 4:00 as the course comes off. So that's the reality. What do we do about it? But on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate your staff's happiness?
Currently, historically, we've been really good with retention. So right now, I think because we're in that kind of shift from, I don't know, I know I talked about it we started recording, but like our transition as an F&B, we were more of a counter service. Now we've gone to more full service amidst COVID, which was genius, right? So, but transitioning there has been a bit of a struggle and a learning curve for us. So, how would I rate them? I think it's better than a 5, but it's got like a lot of room, Yeah.
And there's a reason why, and that's for us and for the audience. We often do very simple staff engagement surveys using something called the Net Promoter Score. So if anybody's had a call from their car company, insurance company, Home Depot calls you and does a service call or asks you to fill out their survey, they're saying on a scale of 0 to 10, rate your satisfaction with your employees, with your guests, with your experience, whatever it is. And what the statistic shows or the science behind it, if you rated 0 to 6, if you're 6 or below, you're a detractor, meaning that you're not where you want to be. If it's a guest coming to your restaurant, they're actually willing to go online if they're 6 or below and put a negative review up. If we're 7 or an 8, we're neutral, meaning that we're okay, but we're not necessarily satisfied. If we want to relate it to a guest experience, we go out for dinner and we went somewhere, but we don't remember what we had. We remember going to that restaurant, but I don't remember what I ate. That's just not memorable. And then 9s and 10s are promoters. I think Luke would be hard to get to a 9 and 10. I think that's, again, part of the scrappiness and the great part about you. But we do want to be striving towards 9s and 10s where possible. So we think we're well above a 5 average. Maybe we're in a 6, maybe we're in a 7, which is a good spot, but it also sounds like we're in a position of transition. Is that fair? Going to full service. Tell me a little bit about how's it working so far this season now that you can get your tip? Tell me a little bit about that guest. How do you feel you're delivering to your guests right now? What is it? Are your staff happy? Are your guests happy? Is it working?
Yeah, I think what we run into is the sort of the change from running events versus having people come in individually to the restaurant. I think the service has been solid. It is newer to our team, but they took to it really well. How would I answer?
I think the one thing we go through in fairness, and I do appreciate these are big questions, but what's one thing in your service that's putting a smile on your face, and what's the one area that you'd want to improve? What would you watch? You're yeah, that's it. That's that golfer's happy, that guest is happy. And then what's one thing you're I don't want to swear on Scott's show because I usually do, but S word. I just
does this have the explicit tag to it, Scott?
He bleeps me, so I saw the recording. Bleeps.
Well, we just posted an article on Gig called "Get Rid of the Assholes," so it's not totally out of the realm of possibility that you'd swear on a Gig podcast. So do what you got to do.
Awesome, my man. Yeah, that's it. And again, I'm not asking Luke this question. If you're listening to this, because what I want to see is what do you see as positive in your restaurant? And what I'm really looking for is, can we notice good? Our industry's been trained to notice the negative gaps. On TV, we can go watch John Taffer or Gordon Ramsay or whoever we want, and it's yelling that I've met both John and Gordon Ramsay. That's not who they are and how they act. It's for TV. Gordon Ramsay is one of the nicest leaders. He has some of the highest staff retention in the industry. He just plays that role for TV because he makes millions of dollars doing it. But our industry has been trained to focus on the positive. So what I want to see, if we can see positive, we're going to talk about it. Our people will see positive and it changes behavior. If right now all we're seeing are the gaps, that's okay. But the market's shifting. Our demographics of our staff are shifting. Gen Y and Gen Z, although Luke has high retention, if we really want to get them happy, that's going to come from positive recognition. If we want to change behavior, the brain actually doesn't have the ability to process negativity to change behavior. It only recognizes that feels good, do more of that, whether it's healthy or not. I'm going to eat that bag of chips. That chip's good, so I eat the whole bag. We're going to work towards what feels good. But what puts a smile on your face in the last kind of few months? What's one kind of area that stood out and said, yeah, that's really good?
I think the greeting.
Awesome.
Too many times you walk into places and nobody says a word or makes an acknowledgement to you, right? And one thing my team does really well is even from across the room, if it's at least it's a wave, hey, that's what, that brings a smile to my face for sure. When they're constantly consistently doing it, which is great.
Yeah. And Scott,
even when you're down in the dumps too. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see Luke's energy shift when he started to talk about how positive that was?
Totally. And anecdotally, not being close to Luke's facility, but I can tell you from what I see in the promotion that they do and the stories that they tell online, super happy staff, very friendly, very welcoming. They know that people are coming to Whiskey Run to have fun. And so they're having fun at the same time, interacting with those people. And the other thing I notice about Luke's facility is a really unique approach to what they're creating from a culinary standpoint for their guests. I think they've got some pretty cool things that they're serving up on a regular basis. They're changing things up pretty regularly and trying to be fun and creative with that too. So I think they've got some really fun, engaging people, and they're having a lot of fun with their menu. So that's got to be attractive to the people when they're thinking about where they're going to play golf. It's got to be appealing to make it easy for people to choose Whiskey Run.
Luke, what's one innovation you did on the menu this year? Something that you tried that was different, just for the audience to hear. I was hungry and thirsty reading your email, so I won't share there, but when you send the email across. But tell me a little. What's an innovation that you're just hey, I'm going to do this different?
Well, I don't think it was a different sort of strategy, but one thing, what we used is we used some data over the last couple of years to see what works and try as we do trials. Like last year implemented it's just nothing new, right? It's just a weekly feature, but we set up a schedule to promote it a certain day that ran and get it out there. We made this nice videos in each week and we tested things out, and we noticed, which we kind of had a good idea about, but we knew like now the items started to lean towards more of a Southern style, barbecue style. One thing we ran, which we never had on our menu, was a Nashville, hot chicken, fried chicken sandwich. Ran it once, crushed it. Went to another couple things over a few weeks, and let's try it again, crushed. And so now it's on the menu this year. Yeah. And something like that we used to sell a ton of that outsold everything was our handmade burgers. They now it's like neck and neck between the two this year, which is pretty wild, which is kind of cool. So that's, I don't know if that's innovation, but like it's just more of strategy and execution.
Why do you make handmade burgers? Why choose to do that? With shortage in the kitchen and that, what's the possible shortage? Not to say yours is, but the industry's experiencing it. So, and I'm going somewhere with this, so stick with it because there's a really cool thing that you do that's strong. So why handmade? Tell me the story about your burger.
Yeah, it's just the quality's so much better, and delivering a quality product is going to be super important for us. Especially you want people to come back. I mean, I don't want to throw like a frozen. Anybody can throw a frozen burger on, man. Yeah. But you get somebody who can actually mix up a nice batch and with the right spices and herbs, and you can get really flavorful burger, and you can also do it cheaper than bringing in frozen stuff. So it's like, it just all makes sense to me.
And see, because what I see in just the innovation, right? So the testing the Nashville hot chicken sandwich and the burger, right? So the innovation would be around the special. So running an intentional special. A lot of people just have a special product that is on a chalkboard outside that hopefully somebody buys or not. But I can
That's exactly what we did. Yeah. Before.
Yeah. Before, right? And now we're saying we're engaging the staff, we're creating measurement, we're creating visibility, we're making it matter, we're trying new things. Like I can tell, I want to work on Luke's team. He's disrupting, he's trying new stuff. People want to work for leaders right now because our industry is still uncertain. The media attacked us. Golf hospitality as a whole, meaning this industry is unsafe. Either you're going to go work somewhere that's short-staffed, or maybe the businesses don't exist. So a lot of people left, and what people want is to trust their business. So they feel trusted and safe. And when I hear Luke talk, he has a vision, absolute clear vision. We might do a little bit of work to draft it on a single page, but his staff are buying into his leadership. He's also placing measurement. So if you're running anything in your pro shop, if you have anything online, if you're doing something in your F&B spaces, what we measure improves, and create conversation. And we want to make the staff give a shit, care about it. And the way why I wanted Luke to talk about his burger is because people buy rich and vivid stories. And I'm sure if we asked Luke's staff, they would give a similar answer as to why we do a handmade burger. It's something different. It's special. We put the work in. Sure, it's cost effective, but what I heard there is it's a better product, and it's ours. Mm-hmm. So it's like these stories and beliefs and processes. This is leadership, and the communication of our intentions. A lot of times people sit in their clubhouse, in their office, and have these great ideas, and we just tell people what to do. What I hear from Scott sharing as somebody looking at Luke's course is we're enrolling the people to believe what our experience looks like. Our quality. I read Luke's email. He cares about quality. It's not, do you do quality? Are we good products sometimes? I know that's a must do for Luke. I'm only having some limited interaction with him. So these are the little pieces of leadership. That what are your story? What does innovation look like? And if we take anything away from this last couple of minutes, what do you need to measure this year to create awareness so we give it attention to create a different result? Measure one thing. Talk about it daily and it'll shift. And that can be, again, your pro shop. It can be a menu item. It can be getting your people on the course, pushing people back into the clubhouse after so they don't jump in their cars and leave to go to a restaurant. They stay with you. So, Luke, anything to add to that? But did anything I say right or wrong? I often get it wrong, but that's my takeaway.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think measuring is critical. Even with that, when, like I said, how before we ran like daily specials and throw them out there and nothing would really hit. So, I mean, I had the data on those from the previous year. So when we made that change, I was able to go head to head and like running those weeklies with some intention. versus the dailies. So as an example, we were mid-season last year, and utilizing those kind of intentional specials, those weekly ones where we actually were more thought out, we had already outsold all of the daily specials from the previous year combined. So it was just like, but I wouldn't know that if I wasn't measuring it.
Yeah. Yeah. And this goes back, and I'm not going to, just to get in the time, but if anybody chooses to read a good book or pick up the audio book, is James Clear book, Atomic Habits. And one thing he says, if we want to change a habit, one of the biggest, and I've studied habit change during the pandemic. So I went through, there's like 5 core habit books. It's all the same message. I just think for me, James Clear book was the best. But he says, first thing comes with our identity. So I care about our quality. I care about our people. Our identity is we're going to create a great experience. Then what we need to change result is we need a visual cue, whatever it is. So if you want to go to the gym, having your shoes at the end of your bed and the clothes there in the morning, you wake up, you can step over them. If there's a visual cue reminder that was your commitment. You have the data from the POS system, which we can all simply run, and you're able to get this in front of your team, talk about it. And it's, now, a special menu is in demand from your guests, from your golfers, and it's the number 2 seller. Mm-hmm. But everything we're looking to do, we need that visual cue, and just keep it simple. Whether it's chit times, whether it's your guest experience, measuring it online through guest feedback, whether it's doing your own surveys, whether it's staff satisfaction, create visibility around it. It'll change the behavior. But for sake of what we want to do today is, take this kind of last third of our time together here today. And why don't we isolate, just to start the conversation, a service strategy process. So I've had a chance to literally work, spend a decade helping operators focus on designing a service strategy. And there's lots of ways to do this. This one's not right, but what I've proven with independent operators to the largest brands and some of the largest brands in North America is if we can get our service strategy on a single page, we can coach it to our staff where they buy into why does it matter? Why should I care? Why should I execute it? How does it benefit me? And then we can measure it and execute it consistently. And how we do this, just the first thing, is a 3-step process. So what are the 3 things we're looking to do with every single guest or golfer relentlessly and consistently? And that might sound simple. And this can be from your bag drop to your pro shop to your F&B operation. It doesn't matter. But the way we isolate it is, what's the one thing that we want to do to start the experience? And look, I'm just going to have us be playful with some answers here. And I think you've answered this one pretty clear. But in your F&B operation, what's most important when greeting your guest? So what's the impression we want to make? What do we want to do to kick off that service experience with your guest?
You want to acknowledge them.
And let's break that. How many clubhouses have you gone in and sat for 20 minutes without getting acknowledged? Not trying to be a jerk here, but I can tell you I did it last weekend.
Yeah. I've been to plenty.
Yeah. And I'm respectful of staffing shortages. I got a chance to golf the last couple of weekends, and the one before, incredible server. They didn't have a process to recognize guests coming from the course to the patio. She was in the clubhouse. We literally sat out there for back-to-back weekends now, 20 minutes waiting, to the point where it's like, hey, should I just grab something on the road on the way home? So this is, and I'm not judging those courses. I love them. We're not going to say the names, but it's just an opportunity. But so what does acknowledging your guests? Because acknowledging sounds simple. The biggest restaurant company on the planet, and one of them in Starbucks. Now, one of the things, you walk into Starbucks and they say good morning. They were able to get 14,000 stores overnight in this area of the world to say good morning, and it is a pattern interruption. What does acknowledgement look like for you? Like what would that do they need to stop and say hello? Do they need to say, hey, welcome in? Like, what do you want them to do? And it doesn't need to be complicated. It could be simple.
No, yeah, it'd just be simply like an eye contact and an acknowledgement of some kind, whether depending on the distance, where they are, either a wave or a hello, some form of gesture, just to acknowledge that I see you. I know.
And in what timing? Like, so somebody walks in, how quickly do you want them to be acknowledged? There's the scrappiness, right? It's got that. That's like Luke right there, right away. Okay, it makes a difference, right? So we want to, as quickly as possible, we're going to stop what we're doing and acknowledge new guests coming in. Why does that matter? So why should anybody give a shit about acknowledging their guests in your world?
To me, it's going to, even if there is a gap in where service takes place, like that initial engagement is going to allow the person that much more time, or at least give that much more time and give a little more leniency on it, I would say.
Yeah. Love that. So if we want, so right now, everybody, listen, we have short staff in certain situations. So what Luke's doing is creating, I see you, I acknowledge you, and we will get to you, we promise, but it gives us permission to have timing. We can get there quickly or not, but it actually buys us time and we can explain that. I went to a restaurant last weekend for brunch, and it said, we walked in and the person said, it's going to be 50 minutes for your food delivery. I said, that's no problem. That's great. I'm not going anywhere. It was nice. It was a beautiful day and sit on the patio. But if they didn't tell me, I'd be pretty upset. So the side of it, what you're doing, we're just creating a bit of expectation. So the best service strategies are simple and executed relentlessly. What's the one thing? So if we go to what's most important in your vision for your restaurants when they're taking the order or that kind of, so we're taking the order and delivering food, like what would be something you want to define it? Is it around, do we want to be making recommendations? Do we want to be listing? Do we want to be fast? What's most important to you if you were to define that order taking and order delivery process? What's most important to you?
Depends on the guest. I think it depends if they're new. I think the first step is after greeting is finding out, have you been here before?
Yep.
That would be it. I think the handling it from there changes slightly, but suggesting something from there and actually having some more of a descriptive, other than like try the burger. I want them to be like, oh, you got to try the burger. You'll love it. It's the 6 ounce handmade. She uses these spices, blends. It's going to melt in your mouth. Like you got to try it. Like something like that. That's
a little bit of romance.
A little bit, a little bit.
Yeah. But it sounds, again, we know all this stuff, common sense, but it's not common practice. So we want you to make a personal recommendation on a product and tell a story. And if I'm a server, why do I care? Again, it's about our audience isn't the guest yet. Our audience is how do we get the server to buy into what we want to execute consistently and relentlessly. When they make those recommendations, Luke has the data. We make a check average goes up and they walk out with more tips. It's no more time from them, but there's a direct benefit to following Luke's stories, Luke's delivery. Should every restaurant be making passionate recommendations? I believe they should. Most do not. Like I ate something for lunch today. The person's like, this is my favorite. It's a pasta. They just put it on the menu. I eat it so much. I'm gaining weight, but it's incredible. You have to try it. When she came back to take the order, she looked at me and I just nodded at her and she said, I know what you're going to get. I'm
That's great.
Yeah, she's a rock star. But I was like, and it was amazing. It was absolutely incredible. So what we want to do, we want to sell this to our staff, right? We want you to make passionate recommendations, and you might have your own language, right? Make it scrappy, make it yours, might tie into the whiskey concept. We want to be playful with the language, but we want you to tell a story about a menu item with every interaction to take the order with the guest. And people might say, well, what happens when we're short staff? It's a must do or a should do. I encourage you to make these 3 steps must do's. And we can create the 3 same steps for the bag drop, for the pro shop, what do we want to do when they walk in? How do we interact with them when they're checking in for their green fees? And the last step is, how do we want to end the experience? And I think you've got something really, really cool here. And we're going to share with everybody a worksheet where you can do your what we call a 3x3 service strategy on a single page. And we have some audio. We take you right through the exercise should you want to. But how do you want to end the experience? Like I've been to so many restaurants where the experience ends as soon as they take the plates. They forgot the check, or it ends, the server's on to somebody else because the interaction's done. But how are you going to wrap your experience to invite people back to your course, to your micro distillery?
We do it in a couple ways. I mean, one way I have a loyalty program built in. So when they go to pay, it's right there that they can opt in. We give a big number. We give 10% back. So, awesome. So that's like one of the ways just to bring them back. But in terms of like the team member interaction, I mean, I think it's again, it's an acknowledgement. It's like, thanks for coming. We'll see you again. See you soon.
Yeah, I think it's simple stuff. And we call it, how do we provide a reason to return? What does that look like for us? So I think decide if they're playing in a league night, they probably know the course. But like you said, who is the guest? Did you know that we've got, we're developing a micro distillery? Did you know that we have these green fee rates at this time? Do you know, there's just most people are walking outside of a restaurant where no one's telling them why and when they should come back. we did a workshop last week here in Toronto, and we shared that there was 1,408 new restaurants open in the GTA in 2019. So there's 1,408. Even think about I'm looking to go. I'm back to Ontario, looking to go golfing. Like, there's so many courses that I didn't even know existed prior to leaving 2 years ago. They've been developed for years, but there's so much choice in that environment. Is why come back to a certain property consistently? So if there's 1,408 new restaurants, I think I really need to have something remarkable to come back and go there again, right? Just if I want to try something new, I might come one less time. So that simple process of being saying, hey, come back to us here for this. And I love the loyalty program. And I'd love to dive more into that, but like Luke just offered it up, like he has a loyalty program, 10%. Maybe we can get a question out, Scott, of how that ROI works for Luke. I think that could even be a separate, quick clip. But on that side, how,
I can answer that.
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't, before we get in the reason to return, share with me, how does a 10% loyalty, how do you make those numbers work?
Yeah. So typically, we use a company called Square. I don't know if you're familiar with Square at all. So we use their built-in loyalty program, which works phenomenally well. Super easy. Anyways, they suggest that but on average, your loyalty guest is going to spend 30% more. So we're okay, I'm in. And what I ended up seeing in year one, they spent on average 189% more a loyalty customer.
And let's break that down. And I know it's just in the
data. It's
across
board, right?
Yeah. So it's more the loyalty. Do you think, where do you plan to recover it in return green fees, in return F&B, or is it applied across all areas of everything?
It's applied to everything. I haven't limited it to anything. Yeah. And even from that was year one. Then the next year, I was okay, well then that was pretty good. That might have been a fluke, but sure. The following year was 208%. They spent more, and the average spend was up, obviously. So it's pretty incredible. It's something that's an automated process, that. I don't know. I can't replicate on the human side, but it's just incredible. It's been incredible for the golf course in general, and such a great way to bring people back, because now they know, I've got this literally cash back that I can use, but at my golf course or at my restaurant. So if they're making decisions of where to go and they've got $30, $40, $50 sitting there, generally they're popping back my way.
Okay. So and Scott, you talked about little, nuggets of gold. This is it. So the reason to return for Luke for this year might just continue to be, I know Square's got to prompt the loyalty program, but we might want to have a staff prompt or staff, measurement. So we have measurement to make sure that they're converting, and we get that loyalty program sign up rates as high as possible, because the ROI is incredible. And I just like the story and the benefit, right? So the software is providing, but that's one industry I think has done so well with this, and success leaves clues, but all the major gas stations, right? So if you go to a Petro-Canada or Shell here in Canada, there's going to be a prompt not only for upsell for product, but for their loyalty programs. Starbucks is probably best in class. They were late, but they came in late, and now they are best in class in their loyalty programs. And it's a must to do, right? With the prompts everywhere with strong rewards. So right now we've just heard a story from our peer Luke about, hey, I did this program. It doesn't have to, we're not promoting Square here. We're promoting loyalty programs, but do as you wish to look at what works for you. I don't know if Scott's got any partners on that side, but it's something that I would be very curious about, to be having a conversation in the next few weeks of what does a simple program look like for you, maybe for this season, but definitely for 23. Let's look at that if we're seeing positive results. So again, one of the biggest things that we wanted happy staff that are going to deliver a great guest experience to anchor this conversation back around, and how we're going to deliver a relentless and a consistent guest experience is 3. And what they do outside of this is their personality. But we want to make sure every guest that walks into an F&B operation is going to be acknowledged as quickly as possible with a visual cue or a verbal contact. Again, we can get more playful, fun language. That's a bit rigid. I don't want to write it visually. We're going to say hi. We're going to say welcome, or whatever the heck it is for you. So sometimes don't worry about the language. We're acknowledge every guest as quickly as possible. And can we coach that? Yes. If somebody walks in and they don't acknowledge, Luke has an opportunity to say, hey, did a great job there. But that guest was there for 3 minutes. While we were watching Sports Desk on the TVs, we really need to get there. And this is why. Keeps them here, makes them feel safe, gets the order started, takes pressure off the kitchen, whatever it is for you. Then in the order process, we are going to share a passionate recommendation. So soon that's going to be around a vodka gin or eventually a whiskey product. We are going to relentlessly, passionately talk about those products. But we're going to talk about this handmade burger and the spices. And even Luke's hands were going. We're telling a story every single time. And Luke can have the data to back it up. And people might be scared of the word data. We're going to run a report from the POS system for a month, for a week. It's right there. Single item. Did it grow versus 2019? And at the end, I heard 200+% more spend from the loyalty program. We talk about return on investment and return on time. That's it. We're going to do more loyalty. When Luke does that, because this is a train that's already in motion. It's happening. It's in play. I want to acknowledge his leadership and his clarity. Some of the questions I'm asking are large questions that are not easy to answer. And what I appreciate about your leadership is you're able to answer them quickly. But we get this on a single page. We train, and there's onboarding, training, and coaching. So onboarding is your first couple weeks. Training is maybe your first, second, so week 3, week 4, and then ongoing coaching through positive recognition. We're going to do this relentlessly, and we're going to reward people for when it shows up. We don't want to smack people with the ruler on their hands when it doesn't happen. We want to reward when somebody acknowledges, that was awesome. When somebody passionately recommends, we want to share that on social. If it's all the platforms that you're on, doesn't matter if it's a LinkedIn video or a TikTok video. We want to celebrate this because it'll bring that fun to your staff, whatever that looks like for you, and keep those loyalty numbers up, man. Those are awesome. One thing I'll share here. So we will provide the worksheet to do your 3x3 service strategy. These are 3 whats we want to do, and the exercise you can fill out how you deliver them. We'll give you some context. And one thing Luke shared that I'd also encourage you to do is understand who your guest avatars are. So you have a regular golfer. You maybe it's the weekend golfer. You might have an event guest, whether it's golf, booking, whatever it is. They all have different needs. So we want to think, who are the 3 core types of guests coming into your facility, and what do they want to need? That can be, Scott, for another podcast, but it's a simple exercise. We'll provide that worksheet to go out with this one as well. And I think that's the biggest thing. And Luke, if you go back again to the question, if we look at just in your F&B operation now, what we want to do is create these great guest experiences. We want to great passionate recommendations. We want to drive loyalty. But I'm going to anchor back to the question is what result, how do you win? Is it going to be a guest measurement? So guest satisfaction? Is it going to be employee satisfaction? How does your F&B operation kind of isolated win this year?
I think it's a combination of the two, the guest satisfaction and employee satisfaction.
Yeah.
I think that's how. And I like the net promoter score strategy of giving that out to the team. I haven't done that. So that was a light bulb. So that's great.
Yeah.
We've done that kind of things with our guests, but not with the team. One-on-one kind of talking, but never as a here from 0 to 10 kind of that's cool.
You can do 0 to 10. How satisfied are you in your position right now? How satisfied are you with your summer? And then there's a second follow-up question to NPS. How likely would you be to refer a friend that to come work with us?
Yeah.
The other thing that I can send you is there's a Gallup Q12 survey. It's 12 yes or no questions. It's the largest staff engagement survey done on the planet every few years. They do 8 million people. Very crafted questions. Takes literally 48 seconds to fill out for the staff member. You don't want to focus on all 12 questions, but it's another great tool to measure staff engagement if that's going to be a success measurement. Scott, we can pull it down from online, the Q12, and maybe talk more about that. But Luke, I'll definitely follow up with you. But everybody listening, and Scott, I'll let you kind of wrap us up here in a second. Clear is kind, clarity is power. These are Brené Brown and Tony Robbins saying. Luke is a very clear leader. He's got a vision to the point where we're going micro distillery because that's a belief and something he's passionate about. And I think anybody listening knows that's going to work, not because it's a micro distillery, because Luke's behind it and his team's behind it. He cares first about his people, then to deliver his guest. And he has clarity of what he wants his team to do consistently, relentlessly to deliver that experience. If we just focused on that, we win. COVID took away so much control. everything that Luke is focused on is in his control and is in his team's hand. And I'm not here to pump Luke's tires. That's not what I do. Scott knows that. So if I had to dig a little bit here, I would have. There's a lot of great stuff going on in your operation, my man, and I'm proud of you, and I'm grateful to have had this time here today.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I've learned a lot right here too. It's great.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. That was a fantastic conversation. Luke, it sounds like there were some great takeaways for you there. For the audience listening, hope you guys feel the same way. As Matt alluded to, when you go into the gig dashboard for this episode, as you scroll down, we'll definitely have these downloads that Matt was referring to in our discussion available for you to grab there. And Matt, thank you. Luke, thank you. So much great stuff being talked about today. Really appreciate your time. Thank you to everyone out there in Gig Nation for listening. And as we like to say here at Golf Industry Guru, we'll see you on the inside.
Thanks for listening to the Gig Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode and mostly that you learned a few things that will help you improve your business. Join us next time as we continue to bring you the best and brightest golf and hospitality leaders on the planet. Thanks for listening.